Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right in a relationship, yet something was missing? She's kind, responsive, maybe even affectionate. But somewhere in the quiet moments, something unspoken lingers. A distance, a tension. As if she's hiding a part of herself you can't quite reach. You see, women are often taught to suppress their deeper desires, not because they're wrong, but because the world doesn't know what to do with a woman who feels too much. So, they bury them. They act strong, polished, in control. But beneath the surface, something ancient is still burning. Desires they rarely speak of, unless they feel deeply safe or deeply stirred. And here's where most men go blind. They chase what she shows, but miss what she hides. They try to impress her with grand gestures, but forget that the quietest triggers often go the deepest. In this video, we're not giving you tricks. We're going to explore the 10 hidden desires women try to bury, and more importantly, how you can awaken them. Not through manipulation, not by being someone else, but by becoming a man of presence, of depth, of calm emotional strength. The kind of man who doesn't just get her attention, but earns her trust with silence, steadiness, and subtle power. Stay with me until the end, because once you see what most men never do, you won't just understand women better. You'll understand yourself better too. Part 1. The desire to surrender, but only to a man who cannot be moved. Let's begin with a paradox that most men completely overlook. She doesn't want to lead. She doesn't want to control. Deep down, she longs to surrender, not to be dominated, but to finally let go, in the presence of a man who cannot be emotionally moved. And no, this isn't about giving up her power or submitting out of fear. It's about something far more sacred, the freedom to collapse into presence, into peace, into trust. But she can only do this when she senses, deep in her nervous system, that the man in front of her won't collapse with her. You see, in a world that constantly demands her strength, her performance, and her emotional labor, she is tired of being the strong one. Every day she's juggling expectations, at work, in relationships, within herself. She may look composed on the outside, but inside she's carrying invisible weight. So when she meets a man, her body, before her mind, asks one question: can he hold this? Not just hold her hand, hold her storm. When she vents her frustration, does he flinch? When life gets messy, does he lose his frame? When she tests his edges, not out of malice but out of instinct, does he react or remain still? That stillness is everything. She desires a man who does not emotionally spiral when she does. Not because he's numb, not because he's cold, but because he's anchored, rooted, because he's done the internal work to remain unshaken in the face of chaos. This is the essence of Stoic strength. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that strength is not loud. It's not performative. It doesn't need to raise its voice or beat its chest. It's quiet, but unmistakable. This kind of man, he doesn't argue just to win. He doesn't react just to feel in control. He listens, really listens. And when he speaks, it's measured, grounded, Even in the heat of conflict, he holds a steady gaze, not to intimidate, but to reassure. His calm isn't passive, it's earned. And that's what makes him magnetic. Because when a woman feels that kind of steadiness, her entire nervous system softens, not because he overpowers her, but because she no longer has to guard herself. She doesn't want to fight him. She wants to feel safe enough to melt into him. But here's where many men fail. They confuse dominance with presence. They try to control her, to silence her, to force respect. But what she's looking for is not dominance, it's depth. She doesn't want to be overpowered. She wants to be met. She wants to feel that your core is stable, that you can hold tension without needing to fix it, that you can feel her chaos without absorbing it. Because when you do that, you become her anchor. And once she feels anchored, she finally exhales. That sigh. When a woman lets down her guard in front of you, that's not weakness, that's surrender. And it is one of the most powerful acts of trust a human being can offer. But she will only offer it to a man she knows will not crumble. A man who does not need her to be smaller so he can feel strong. A man who has nothing to prove yet everything to offer. So ask yourself, when she's upset, do you try to fix her or do you feel her? When she pulls away, do you chase or do you stand still, calm and aware? When life throws you off course, do you panic or do you return to your breath and respond from center? Your ability to stay present in these moments is the test, not just of your masculinity, but of your maturity. Because the woman who wants to surrender is not weak. She's waiting for a man whose peace cannot be shaken, waiting for someone who doesn't collapse when things get hard, waiting to finally rest in the presence of unwavering strength. Not loud, not flashy, but quietly, deeply, unshakably there. To be seen without performing. Have you ever noticed how many women walk into a room like they're stepping onto a stage? Their hair flawless, smile ready, posture curated, not by vanity, but by conditioning. Most women are raised, sometimes subtly, to perform. Not in a theatrical sense, but in a deeper, more exhausting way. They're taught to earn approval, affection, and acceptance by being charming, beautiful, polite, by being enough of whatever the moment demands. But underneath all that performance lives a deeper desire to stop performing altogether. Not because she wants to fall apart, but because she wants to be seen, really seen. Not as a role she's playing, but as a person she's hiding. Not the flawless mask, but the full, messy, radiant reality beneath it. And the truth is, very few men can give her that space. Because most men respond only to the performance. They chase the makeup, the sparkle, the surface charm, and then wonder why they never feel a real connection. But here's where you become different. The man who makes a woman feel truly seen doesn't interrupt the silence. He leans into it. He's not quick to judge, flatter, or analyze. He simply notices. He watches the way her eyes drift when no one is talking. He listens to the pauses between her words. He lets her exist without immediately trying to fix, praise, or flirt. And in that space, she exhales. Not just a breath, but years of pressure. Decades of silent scripts finally given a break. You become the moment where her performance gets to end. Think about that. In a world where most people reward her mask, you honor her reality. That's not small. That's rare. Now, this doesn't mean you ignore her beauty or downplay her charm. It means you see through it. You respect the work it takes to show up polished. But you're not fooled into thinking that's all she is. When a woman senses that you are not hypnotized by her surface, but intrigued by her depth, something ancient happens. Her walls begin to dissolve. Not because you demanded it, but because you didn't. Stillness disarms her more than compliments. Calm eye contact speaks louder than clever lines, and your comfort in silence tells her that she doesn't need to entertain you to be valued. It's not easy to become this kind of man. It requires a deep shift in how you relate to women and to yourself. You must become aware of your own urges to impress, to fill silence, to chase validation. You must learn to sit in the unknown, to resist the urge to label everything, and that's where Stoicism becomes your backbone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change." That's the attitude of a man who doesn't cling to illusions, not even his own. And it's that kind of humility, that kind of grounded presence, that allows you to witness others without needing to control or edit them. So what does this look like in the real world? It looks like sitting across from her at dinner and letting her story unfold without jumping in with advice. It looks like holding eye contact when she shares something vulnerable, without laughing it off or minimizing it. It looks like noticing when she's quiet, not as a problem to fix, but as a moment to honor. And perhaps most importantly, it looks like not needing her to be anyone other than who she is in that moment, with you. This is rare, because many men, good men, still unconsciously require performance from women. They reward excitement, energy, flirtation, and pull away when things get too quiet, too real, too raw. But not you. You're here to offer something more solid, something more lasting, something rooted not in entertainment, but in presence. So ask yourself this: when you look at a woman, do you only see what she's showing? Or can you sit long enough to see what she's not saying? Can you become the space where her masks finally get to fall? Because the man who can do that is unforgettable. He's not loud, flashy, or the center of the room. He's the one who makes her feel like, for the first time in a long time, she doesn't have to perform. She can just be, and in a world that constantly demands more from her. That kind of presence is the most powerful gift you could ever offer. Part 3. To feel safe in emotional chaos, she may often say she wants peace, quiet, stability, no drama. But behind those words, there's a deeper emotional truth. She doesn't always need the world to be calm. She needs to know that she can be chaotic and still be safe. Sometimes, what she truly desires is not the absence of storms, but the presence of a man who can weather them. A man who won't try to fix her feelings, rush to solve her problems, or silence her emotional intensity. She doesn't need rescue. She needs recognition. Imagine a woman spiraling in emotion, anger, sadness, confusion, and the man beside her simply breathes deeply, remains steady, and listens. No defensiveness, no panic. That stillness is not weakness, it's strength. It's control turned inward. It's stoicism in action. She slowly begins to soften, not because the chaos vanished, but because she no longer had to carry it alone. That moment when she feels her emotions crash like waves and he remains the shore is the moment she begins to trust him deeply, not because he stopped the storm, but because he stayed. She doesn't test you because she wants to destroy your peace. She tests you because she's hoping you'll survive her storm. Not just once, but over and over. The feminine is not chaos in a negative sense. It is movement, emotion, feeling. It swells, shifts, and crashes like the ocean. And what she longs for most deeply is not a man who silences the tide, but one who can stand firm within it. In the presence of a grounded man, she feels a strange kind of freedom, one she cannot explain. It's the freedom of not having to be in control all the time. When you don't flinch at her tears, don't match her intensity with your own, and don't try to fix or flee. You give her something rare, a safe place to be real. She might lash out, cry, spiral, or withdraw. These are not threats to your authority. They are invitations. Invitations to show that your strength is not reactive but rooted, that you can stay calm not just in silence but in the storm itself. And when you do, something ancient shifts in her. She stops fighting, not because you won, but because she feels safe enough to rest. In a world where men are trained to chase validation, react to drama, and seek control, the Stoic man stands apart. He is the stillness in the middle of her emotional hurricane. Not passive, not dismissive, just deeply rooted. Like an old oak tree weathering the storm. Not by resisting it, but by knowing who he is at his core. He doesn't meet her fire with fire. He doesn't try to out-yell her, out-logic her, or retreat into cold silence. He listens, he breathes, and through his presence alone, he says, "You're safe here." That, more than words or gifts or romantic gestures, is what earns her trust, because her chaos isn't random, it's sacred. It's a test of resonance. She doesn't need a man who shuts her down. She needs a man who stays. When emotions rise and tears fall, when accusations fly or silence grows sharp, the Stoic man doesn't break. Not because he's numb, but because he's anchored in something deeper than emotion, principle. This is not about superiority. It's about self-command. He has faced his own storms, his own shadows. He has failed, fallen, and rebuilt. That's why he no longer fears her waves, because he no longer fears his own. And she feels it. She feels that he can hold her pain without absorbing it, that he can hold her fire without burning. And in that moment, something softens, something opens. She stops needing to test because he's already passed the most ancient test of all. Can you hold my chaos and not lose yourself? Most men can't. They become reactive, resentful, withdrawn, or controlling. But the Stoic man, he remains, not as a wall, but as a witness, a presence. And that presence becomes the very thing she clings to, not out of weakness, but out of deep feminine knowing. This man won't run. This man won't break. To be intrigued by masculine mystery, in a world that encourages constant exposure, where emotions are broadcasted and thoughts shared at the speed of a swipe, there is something magnetic about a man who doesn't give it all away. Modern men often believe that vulnerability means confessing every thought, spilling every emotion, or revealing their entire life story on the first date. But for many women, real connection isn't about what you give instantly. It's about what you hold back, deliberately. She doesn't want a man who performs emotional nudity on demand. She wants the quiet intensity of mystery, not the kind of mystery that hides things to manipulate, but the kind that suggests depth, layers not yet revealed, a story unfolding slowly. Mystery creates tension, and tension in relationships is emotional currency. It keeps the mind engaged, the heart alert. It invites her to lean in, to wonder, to imagine. And imagination is where desire grows. Think of it like this. A good story doesn't start by telling you the ending. It draws you in, piece by piece, making you care, making you wait. It's the same with attraction. The man who reveals himself slowly, intentionally, with presence and purpose, he triggers something ancient in her. Something that isn't just about romance, but about reverence. A man of mystery is like a still lake you can't quite see the bottom of. He's present, but not predictable. Attentive, but not desperate to be known. His restraint is a signal, not of coldness, but of strength. And in that silence, she senses safety. She senses gravity. This is what separates the Stoic man from the overly transparent. He knows that mystery isn't the absence of emotion, it's the discipline of expression. He chooses when and how to reveal his soul, not because he's guarded, but because he respects his depth enough not to waste it. He understands that connection deepens not through constant talking, but through shared stillness, steady energy, and earned intimacy. Women don't want a man who lays himself bare too soon. They want a man they can explore, a man whose world unfolds like a well-written novel, each chapter drawing them deeper in. She doesn't just want to know him, she wants to discover him. So don't rush to explain yourself. Let your silence speak before your words do. Let your actions reveal the man you are, before your stories try to convince her. Let her curiosity grow. Because when a woman wonders about you, she's already emotionally invested. And when she's emotionally invested, she opens up in ways even she didn't expect. Remember, in the dance of attraction, mystery is not manipulation. It's mastery. It is the strength to resist overexposure, the power to let space build meaning. The Stoic man doesn't chase attention. He becomes the question that lingers in her mind long after the conversation ends. That's not aloofness. That's intentional gravity. And that kind of presence, it's unforgettable. To feel the chase, not just be chased. There's a silent truth that most men overlook. Women don't just want to be adored, they want to desire. They want to feel the electric thrill of longing, the pulse of curiosity, the hunger that comes from not having everything too easily. Modern dating often flips this dynamic. Men shower women with attention, validation, gifts, and compliments, hoping it will earn them affection. But deep down, something begins to shift. The energy becomes one-sided, and worse, predictable. The moment she becomes certain of your affection, the chase ends. And with it, the fire. Attraction lives in uncertainty, not confusion, not mind games, but a healthy tension. A sense that she's engaging with a man who has a life, a mission, a direction of his own. a man she can't quite pin down. That subtle unpredictability doesn't repel her, it awakens her. The Stoic man knows this. He doesn't orbit around her like a desperate moon. He's rooted in his own purpose, anchored in his own values. He's present, but not available, at the cost of his dignity. He's interested but not performing. He gives space, and in that space tension grows. And tension, when held with grace, becomes deeply magnetic. Have you ever noticed how compelling a man becomes when he's focused? Not on her, but on something beyond her. His work, his discipline, his personal growth. That kind of focus doesn't ignore her, it challenges her. It invites her to step toward him, to match his energy, to earn his attention. That's the chase. And it's something women secretly crave. When you don't need her to feel whole, she begins to see you as whole. And from that wholeness, desire is born. You're not clinging. You're choosing. You're not trying to possess her. You're inviting her into your world, but only if she chooses to enter. That's the difference between validation seeking and genuine masculine presence. And here's where the Stoic mindset shines. It's not about withholding affection as a strategy. It's about living with such inner abundance that you don't need constant affirmation. You're not acting cold to provoke a reaction. You're simply unshaken in your self-worth. That, paradoxically, makes her lean in. Because the truth is, when a woman senses that she has to earn your heart, not buy it with beauty or charm, she values it more. She steps into the dance, not just as a recipient, but as a participant. And in that dance, her feminine essence lights up, not because she's being pursued, but because she's pursuing something worthy. Give her space to wonder. Don't fill every silence. Don't rush to reply. Let your presence linger. Let her feel your absence when you're not around, not as punishment, but as contrast. That contrast is where craving is born, and craving, when sincere, deepens connection. So don't fear distance. Don't fear pauses. Don't fear not being available all the time. The Stoic man understands that space builds tension, and tension, when handled with calm awareness, is the doorway to lasting desire. She doesn't just want to be chased. She wants to feel the thrill of the chase herself. Give her that, and you'll feel her awaken in ways words can't describe. To be undone by words not flattered, she's heard it all before. You're beautiful, you're stunning, you're perfect. Compliments like sugar, sweet, forgettable, and often given too freely. And though she smiles in response, something deep inside her remains untouched. Because what she truly longs for isn't more flattery, it's depth. It's not about hearing how radiant her smile is. It's about being seen in the moments when she isn't smiling. It's not about having her beauty praised. It's about having her essence recognized, those hidden parts of her soul that few ever slow down enough to notice. This is where the Stoic man holds a quiet advantage. While others are busy performing affection or overcompensating with praise, he simply observes. He's not trying to impress, he's paying attention. And that attention becomes a rare and powerful currency. A single, well-timed observation, delivered not to flatter but to reveal, can disarm her in ways 100 compliments never could. Like saying, "You don't like crowds, do you? You get quiet when the room gets too loud." Or, "You laugh when you're nervous, not because it's funny, These aren't guesses. They're reflections, rooted in presence. And that's what unravels her. Not surface-level praise, but the sensation of being deeply noticed. The Stoic man doesn't rush to speak. His words carry weight because they're not used carelessly. They emerge from silence, shaped by restraint, sharpened by insight. And when he speaks, it's not to fill space. It's to offer something real. In a world of noise, the man who listens stands out. The man who speaks with precision commands attention. And the man who sees her as more than a collection of traits, who sees her contradictions, her doubts, her hopes, moves her. She doesn't want to be chased with flattery. She wants to be pierced by truth. That's what creates emotional intimacy. Not grand gestures, but accurate perception. Not over-the-top affection, but subtle recognition. When she hears words that feel like they were meant only for her, something inside her softens. Because finally, someone is speaking to the real her. Most men try to impress by talking about themselves. But the Stoic man understands that impact lies in noticing her. Not the version she performs for the world, but the one that surfaces in quiet moments, in offhand remarks, in the way her eyes shift when she's vulnerable. That kind of insight doesn't come from chasing. It comes from stillness. From not needing to be seen so badly that you forget to truly see. And that's what makes him different. He doesn't need to validate himself through her reaction. He's grounded in his own self-worth, which makes his attention feel like a gift, not a request. And because of that, she opens. Real connection isn't about the loudest voice. It's about the clearest seeing. And when a man can speak just one sentence that reveals a part of her she thought no one else saw, he leaves a mark that never fades. She's not waiting for your compliments. She's waiting for your clarity. Give her that, and she'll never forget you. 7. To rest in emotional leadership, she's been strong for far too long. At work, at home, in conversations and decisions, she leads, not because she wants to dominate, but because she has to. Because no one else is holding the line. Because when the world feels chaotic, someone needs to take control. And often, that someone is her. But strength, when it's constant, becomes exhaustion. And behind her competence, her command, and her composure is a quiet craving. To rest, not physically, but emotionally. To lay down the armor and know someone else can hold the frame. That's where the Stoic man enters. Not with control, but with calm. Not with ego, but with grounded presence. He does not need to shout to be felt. He leads not by demanding trust, but by earning it through consistency, clarity, and self-respect. You see, emotional leadership isn't about being in charge of her. It's about being in charge of yourself. When you hold your ground in the storm, when your moods don't swing wildly, when your decisions aren't made from reactivity, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, she softens. Not because she's weak, but because she no longer has to hold everything together. She can let go. She can exhale. Because now someone else is holding the emotional weight of the moment, and doing so without needing praise or permission. This is what masculine leadership looks like in a Stoic frame. It's not performance, it's not domination. It's a deep steadiness that allows her to relax into her own femininity without fear of collapse, and it's rare. Most men try to lead through force, through raising their voice, asserting dominance or playing games. but she's seen through. That's not strength. That's insecurity dressed up in control. True leadership is quieter. It's the ability to stay anchored when she tests you, not because she's cruel, but because testing is how she learns to trust. Can you hold your frame when she's emotional? Can you stay open when she's guarded? Can you lead not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard? That's what makes her lean in. It's not the words you say, it's the stability you are. And when you embody that, when you move with quiet conviction, when your presence doesn't shake just because hers does, you give her a gift she can't find anywhere else. Permission to rest. She no longer has to lead every moment. She no longer has to decide everything, feel everything, carry everything. Your leadership gives her a doorway into softness, into surrender, into trust. This doesn't mean you control her. It means you create the conditions for her to feel safe enough to open. And in that opening, something beautiful happens. Not just for her, but for you too. Because when a woman rests in your emotional leadership, she gives you her depth, her devotion, her undivided presence, not out of duty, but out of deep emotional alignment. And it all begins with one thing: you leading yourself first. To feel deep presence, without performance, she's used to being looked at, but not truly seen. In most of her interactions, she plays a role: the charming one, the beautiful one, the polite, witty, accommodating one. She's mastered performance because it's what the world expects of her. It's how she's protected herself. It's how she's survived. But survival is not the same as connection. She doesn't want to keep dancing to be noticed. She wants to rest in presence, in the quiet, knowing that someone is with her, fully, without needing her to entertain, impress, or explain. This is where most men fall short. They're distracted, reactive. Their minds wander, their eyes drift, their energy is unanchored. Even when they say they're listening, their attention is split between their thoughts, their phone, their insecurities. But the Stoic man is different. His presence isn't loud. It's not flashy or forceful. It's not built on compliments or cleverness. It's rooted, grounded entirely here. He's not trying to get anything from her. He's simply with her, fully, and that changes everything. When a man is present without pressure, a woman's nervous system starts to settle. Her guard lowers, her breath slows. She realizes she doesn't have to perform to be valued. She doesn't have to keep proving she's worthy of being seen. He sees her already. Not the mask, not the role. Her, in all her shifting moods, unfinished thoughts, and silent pauses. That kind of presence is rare, and she craves it, not just with her mind, but with her entire body. Because it gives her space to drop into her truth without fear of being judged, fixed, or analyzed. You see, presence without expectation is the most powerful form of intimacy. It's not about what you say, but about how you stay. When she's quiet, when she's emotional, when she doesn't know what she feels, most men rush to fill silence. The Stoic man allows it to breathe. Most men react when triggered. The Stoic man pauses, reflects, and responds with intention. Most men seek validation. The Stoic man seeks clarity, because he is already full within himself. And when that kind of man sits across from her, something softens inside her. She no longer feels the need to perform. She can stop playing the role. She can just be. That's when the real connection begins, not the one built on adrenaline or flirtation, but the kind that roots itself in the soul, because presence is the portal. And when a woman steps through it, she leaves behind the noise of the world and enters something sacred, truth, not forced, not posed, not filtered, just truth, met by silence that doesn't shrink. And in that stillness, she finds a home she didn't know she was searching for. To be safe inside a man's emotions, she doesn't test a man to destroy him. She tests to find him. Every sharp word, every shift in tone, every unexpected silence. These aren't weapons of manipulation. They are signals, subconscious attempts to feel the boundaries of your emotional landscape. She wants to know, can this man hold space for my chaos without collapsing into his own? It's not peace she's chasing. It's structure, safety, the kind that isn't promised in words but proven in presence. When she lashes out, she's asking, where are your edges? When she pulls away, she's wondering, will you come undone, or will you remain still? You see, in her world, emotional reactivity is everywhere. People explode, withdraw, blame, defend. What she craves is rare stillness. A man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't need to prove or fix or retaliate. Just be. This is where true masculine energy lives, not in the performance of dominance, but in the absence of reaction. The Stoic man does not fear emotion, his or hers. He understands that storms are part of the feminine current. He does not need to silence them. He does not need to solve them. He simply stands firm within them. When she screams, he listens. When she cries, he remains present. When she pushes, he does not fall. And that kind of presence does something miraculous. It tells her, you're safe to feel. Not because he tolerates her, but because he respects her full spectrum. He sees the storm and does not confuse it with a threat. He understands that testing is her way of reaching, of searching for something solid beneath the surface. And when she finds it in him, when she realizes she cannot shake his foundation, her entire nervous system exhales. She may not say it out loud, she may even resist it, but something inside her begins to soften, to trust, to surrender. Because now she knows he won't go anywhere when things get hard. He won't crumble under pressure. He won't weaponize her feelings or make them about him. He won't mirror her chaos. He will contain it with silence, with calm, with unwavering presence. And that is rare. That is unforgettable. Most men are pulled into the emotional storm. They argue, defend, match energy for energy. The Stoic man watches the waves but never lets them move the shoreline. His depth is not shaken. His identity is not outsourced to her reactions. And she feels that, not just intellectually, but viscerally. In his stillness, she finds the space to unravel without shame, to trust that no matter how loud the storm gets, he remains steady, and that, more than flowers, more than words, more than any grand gesture, is what earns her deepest respect. To be transformed, not possessed, she doesn't want to be owned. She wants to be awakened. Beneath all the layers of independence, charm, and capability lies a quieter longing, a desire to become, not because she isn't enough already, but because something in her soul hungers for expansion. not for control, but for evolution. And that evolution begins not with a man who seeks to possess her, but with one who embodies his own depth so fiercely, it calls hers to rise. She doesn't need promises. She doesn't need flattery. She needs a mirror, a presence that shows her what's possible when a human being fully commits to inner mastery. Man deeply rooted in purpose becomes that mirror, not because he lectures her, not because he tries to fix her or shape her to his liking, but because every step he takes is steeped in clarity, intention, and inner direction. She watches how he moves through the world, not desperately, not reactively, but with presence. That speaks louder than words ever could, and it moves her, because something inside her knows. This man isn't here to control me. He's here to reflect what power looks like when it's truly integrated. And in that reflection, she sees her own dormant greatness, her own shadows, her own unclaimed potential. The Stoic man doesn't seduce her with attention. He transforms her by simply being, still, rooted, unwavering. His groundedness forces her to meet herself, to stop running, to stop performing, to look inward and ask, am I living in alignment with who I truly am? That's the kind of man she never forgets, the one who doesn't try to win her, but makes her want to win herself back, the one whose very presence dares her to expand into the woman she was always meant to be. She may resist it at first. Growth is uncomfortable, but she'll keep coming back to him, not for validation, but for elevation. Because deep down, every woman knows. The most magnetic man is not the one who claims her. It's the one who holds such clarity, such purpose, such calm direction, that standing beside him feels like stepping into a higher version of herself. Not caged, not controlled, but seen, awakened, and called upward. That, more than anything, is what separates the temporary from the timeless. A quiet truth she'll never say out loud. There's a quiet truth most women will never speak, not because they're hiding it, but because they don't even have the words for it. It shows up when she's lying next to a man who ticks every box, yet something still feels off. He's kind, he's successful, he tells her she's beautiful, and still, she feels empty. She might blame herself, maybe she's too picky, too emotional, too complicated. But it's none of that. What she's missing is the feeling, that deep, unshakable sense that she can finally exhale in someone's presence, that she can stop scanning the room for danger, stop rehearsing how to be pleasing, stop carrying the weight of control, and simply collapse into trust. Not because he says the right words, but because something in him feels so grounded, so steady, so certain, that her nervous system finally lets go. This is the man who doesn't entertain drama, who doesn't explain himself repeatedly, who doesn't move faster just because she's uncomfortable with the silence. He isn't cold, he's calm, and in that calm, she finds the safety she didn't know she was searching for. This is the kind of man who changes her, not by demanding it, but by inviting it. His stillness becomes a contrast to the chaos. His restraint becomes more intimate than any words. And slowly, the armor she's worn for years begins to fall away. It's not love at first sight. It's respect at first stillness. And it echoes in her long after he's gone, because deep down she knows The man who leaves the deepest mark is the one who never tried to impress her, only to hold her storm with silence and strength. Conclusion: the most magnetic thing about you isn't what you show, it's what you carry quietly. If you've watched this far, it means something in you resonates, not with tricks or tactics, but with truth. You've likely realized that what draws a woman in isn't your appearance, your money, or how smooth your words are. It's your energy, your ability to remain unmoved in the face of chaos, your calm when she's not calm, your silence when she tests you, your integrity when no one's watching. Being a magnetic man isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to perform, before ego demanded attention, before fear made you chase. Stoicism reminds us power is in restraint. Real masculinity doesn't shout, it listens. It doesn't cling, it holds. It doesn't need, it witnesses. And that presence, that quiet-rooted presence, is what she has been searching for, often without even knowing. So here's the invitation. Don't perform, don't please, don't pretend to be unshakable, become it. Every word of this video was a mirror, reflecting the places in you that already know. Now it's up to you to embody it. If this spoke to something in you, something ancient, steady, and strong, then subscribe. Not because we need another follower, but because you've chosen a path of calm, of clarity, of grounded masculine leadership. Let's walk that path together.